Should I sue prednisone? That's a question I've been asked a few times by some very upset people who've dealt with prednisone side effects. I know I felt so betrayed and miserable by the prednisone side effects. It seemed like somebody should have to pay for this, right? And if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling like I feel harmed, I feel betrayed, I feel like I just need to sue the prednisone manufacturer, then maybe before you do so, you should watch this video. Hi, I'm Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist, and I want to make it clear, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a pharmacist, and I don't play a lawyer on TV. This is not legal advice. This is just my experience having worked as a pharmacist. And my best tip to you is good luck suing the prednisone manufacturer. Let me explain why. So let me start with back when I used to work in the family pharmacy, and I would go and take the little bottles and put them back on the shelf. All right. So if prednisone starts with the letter P, you would think in the alphabet it would go with the P, pill bottles, right? No, because prednisone used to be dispensed as a brand name drug called Deltazone, Deltasone. Deltazone is where you'd find this generic bottle, generic being prednisone. Deltazone was the brand name company's label name for prednisone. They were the company who owned the patent on the chemical prednisone. And that was where you would put the generic bottle, was right next to the brand. Deltazone, prednisone, right next to each other. You'd always find them right next to each other on the shelf way back in those days. And so if that's where the prednisone was found, the reason is because the brand name was still available. You see, back then, most drugs were brand names, like Prozac instead of fluoxetine. Almost nobody gets brand name Prozac anymore. Almost everyone gets just the plain old fluoxetine, the generic, the cheap stuff that's just pennies on the dollar compared to the brand name, super expensive stuff. So I had to memorize prednisone, deltazone backwards and forwards. I had to do that for every single branded generic pair so that I could remember where it went on the shelf. The reason we do that was because, if somebody didn't want to pay the hundreds of dollars for the brand name, we could give them the generic for cheaper, and we could just grab them right next to each other. It made perfect sense back then. Now, on the other hand, no pharmacy organizes it that way. Every pharmacy organizes it by what's on the bottle, right? That name, prednisone. They would put this in the P's because most brand name drugs have gone generic. They've lost their patent protection, and a generic company now holds the ability to sell the product. It's called an ANDA, an abbreviated new drug application. The brand company had an NDA, a new drug application, and they had an abbreviated new drug application. So ANDA holders have zero liability when it comes to side effects. None. If they didn't change anything from what was on the original drug, the Deltazone version, if they kept the package insert identical to it, if there's a side effect for this bottle, they have no liability. They're only liable if their product is not made properly, not by what the product does to you, only something that they do the product itself. Like, for example, if they're selling you prednisone and it actually has no prednisone in it, then they're liable. But if the prednisone causes a side effect, say high blood pressure, they have no liability. What? Why wouldn't they be liable for that? Right? Like, they're making a product in America. If somebody makes a product that's faulty, aren't they liable? Not when it comes to ANDA companies, generic companies. The Supreme Court ruled that you cannot sue ANDA generic companies for anything that they do if they follow the label. That's what the Supreme Court said. It was just a couple years ago. And there are 3 reasons you can sue. I'll click a link to some lawyer's website where they mention the 3 reasons. But otherwise, you can't sue this generic manufacturer. like you're going to fail at that lawsuit unless you can find another reason to sue them. Just because this pill caused you side effects, sorry, that's not going to do it. And then you might be like, well, how about I sue the Delta Zone then? Okay, except for the problem with the Delta Zone is that company is gone. They're out of business. They don't sell Delta Zone anymore. It's not a product you can purchase. So you can't sue Delta Zone either. So if you're feeling, I really got to sue somebody, you can't sue the drug company because they don't exist. You can't sue the generic company because they have no liability. So who are you going to sue? I don't know. If you find that you have a better reason to sue than just that it caused side effects, then good for you. You make sure you have a really good lawyer and that they're doing it on a percentage basis and you're not paying them per hour. Otherwise, you might be on a wild goose chase, just paying them hundreds and thousands of dollars for something that you probably will never win because you cannot sue the generic company. It's just not a thing, not according to the Supreme Court a few years ago. And this is current as of April 2023. If something has changed since then, it might have. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. But as of this date, you cannot sue a generic manufacturer. So good luck with your lawsuit. And speaking from somebody who's had terrible things happen, I would advise you to take that grief, that betrayal, that horrible feeling, and channel it somewhere else. To let go. That reading, there's an amazing book. It's called Loving What Is. And Loving What Is teaches you how to judge the situation, to really get out all of that hatred and anger, and then love what actually is about the situation, to be able to turn it around. Whether it's the drug itself, your relationship with your spouse, your betrayal at work, that book can help you cope with that misery you're dealing with, because we all have horrible things that we go through. And suing people is almost never the answer. Almost never is suing going to solve any problem. No matter what, in a legal situation, there will be someone who hates you when it's all over. Hate, like serious hatred when it's over. Every time. It's never going to solve the problem. It's not going to get your body back to the way it was. It's not. So I don't recommend suing a generic manufacturer or your doctor if that's what you're really upset about. It's not going to help anyone. So good luck. Get that book. Get some therapy. We all need it. Signing off is Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist.